my OS 5-inch gauge Stephenson'S rocket. This is part 5 and it's called the Resurrection. I know it's not Easter, this has nothing to do with religion, it's the resurrection of a non-working Stephenson'S rocket. A very beautiful non-working Stephenson'S rocket made by the company in Japan called OS. And they really do make superb models. If you've been watching the rest of the series, you'll know what the problems have been. But now the cylinder is no longer stuck, and in this clip I'm fitting the second connecting rod. I'm being very careful not to scratch the paintwork or anything with these sharp tools. So far so good, all it needs now is a little oil, and some compressed air to run it on, but before that, I'd like to show you this. This is what I'm currently looking at. This is the end of this video on my video editor. And what I'm currently doing is voicing over the video. My iMac system is in the vocal booth of the studio, and also in the vocal booth is this. It's a microphone, but not just any microphone. This one is called a Neumann U87, a very beautiful thing. When the postman came yesterday morning, he brought me these, and I thought, oh, that's nice, just what I need, a boring bar. I have one of these, but it's far too big for the current lathe that I use. It was all right on the old Smart & Brown, but this one is perfect for my old Boxford that I use all the time now. Also in the same package were these, some spare tips for the cutter that was sent to me by a man called Dan, and Dan sent me these to go with it. Thanks Dan, I do appreciate it. Especially as today is my 67th birthday, and there's only death to look forward to now, but not just yet. First of all, I need to at least make this Stephenson'S rocket work properly. It's actually working, which is better than it was when I got it. I bought this from Simon Hudson at the Steam Workshop, and Simon said, well, I don't know anything about it, this is just as it's come in. But I said, well, I'm not bothered, if there's anything wrong with it, I'll fix it anyway. As I worked at the Steam Workshop for a while, and I know a little bit about steam engines. If you've been following this series, you'll know what was wrong with it. And now I've got it to the stage so that the wheels go round, but they don't go round very well, and it rocks from side to side. I noticed this problem with some other OS rockets that I saw on YouTube, and I wondered if the full size did this, so I found a video of a full-size replica of a rocket, and yes, that rocked from side to side too. Not quite as quickly as this, because obviously it's a lot bigger and you can't scale nature. Time for a few more adjustments, I think. I'll stop talking for a while so you can see what happens when I open the regulator wide. It nearly jumps off the bench, and even if I press down on the front part, it still rocks about. So clearly something is not right here. The cylinders are at 45 degrees to the main axle, and the suspension is very loose. I'm going to do a bit more tweaking. Oh dear, I've broken it, it's not going anywhere now. I'm trying different valve settings just to get a feel for the valve settings. And I think this valve setting is a tiny bit too advanced. At the moment I'm not adjusting the eccentric underneath the front of the engine, I'm adjusting the valve actuating arms. So I'm adjusting where the valves move relative to the ports, and without removing the steam chest to have a look what the valves are doing, I have to do this by feel and sound. That valve setting was entirely wrong, it's just making it blow to exhaust. I'll back off the adjustment a bit and see what happens. Ah, that's better. It runs in slow motion now too. And what you can clearly see from this clip is it's not wobbling about as much. It's worth mentioning that at the moment I'm not putting much pressure on the front of the engine, I'm just holding it there for safety reasons, so it doesn't jump off the rolling road. I found that if I lifted the front of the engine, it sounded much better. And just in case the purists out there are going tut 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 looking at it running at this speed, I always do this to make sure that nothing falls off anything that I build or rebuild. And now it seems to be running okay, but I'm going to tweak it some more. I can't help myself, I'm sorry about this. My short stay at the asylum hasn't helped very much. At this stage I'm going to stop the narration for a while. I'm going to let the quality of this superb model steam locomotive speak for itself. When I apply some pressure to the wheel, you can see that it starts to jump up and down again. But have a look how slack all the suspension is. This would benefit, I think, from a small spring underneath the leaf spring just to hold things in a little tighter, or maybe even a small rubber block under each side. I remember on the earlier versions of the Blackgate Sweet Pea, the suspension at the rear was just a pair of rubber blocks. Because the way the valve gear works on a Sweet Pea, it's very important that the rear axle box doesn't jump up and down too far, because the geometry of the valve gear will vary if the axle box goes too far up and down in the slot. The lubricator on this engine is a bit of a pain. I've given it a great deal of thought and it's radically over oiling. And it's not really adjustable. The only way you can adjust it is to make the arm move a little bit less. I may be wrong here, but I don't think so. So I have a choice. If I was going to run this engine on a track, I'd change the lubricator. I'd keep the existing tank and build one of Jubilee Fittings lubricators in there, which are infinitely adjustable and really good. I do have an idea that I've used on previous mechanical lubricators to stop them from over oiling, so I'll probably do the same on this engine and feature my fix in a future video. Time for a bit of slow motion, I think. The engine is now running quite well. There's one problem that I can see though. On the shaft that goes across the back that supports all the valve levers, can you see it wobbling about? That's because it's not in the mounting properly. That was easily rectified. I just moved the position of the shorter shaft so it was supported by the bracket. Here's the lubricator. This is running quite slowly, but in real time, not slow motion. This definitely needs some attention. For the moment, I'll just live with the over-oiling as I'm running in the engine. As everything starts to bed in, the engine is running much more sweetly, and when I use my thumb to apply some pressure to the wheel, you can see where the steam or the compressed air is admitted and exhausts. Maybe not quite as early as I would like. I may have to tweak it some more, but I'm not going to do that now. And just for any viewers who are about to tremble over the keyboard to write in and say, but you haven't shown it in reverse, here it is running in reverse. And yes, it runs just as well in reverse. And that is it for the narration. I'm just going to leave it running to the end of the video. All I have to say now is thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website. Click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you will find it very easy to find other videos that you may like to watch.